guys, welcome to the show. Today we're talking about Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux, one of the most highly anticipated matchups in modern history. So if you appreciate and like the show, please consider hitting that subscribe button. If you've got any comments, jump below and let me hear what you got to say. Brilliant to hear from you. So as I say, today we're talking about a highly anticipated matchup against two exquisite and highly skilled and decorated fighters. We're talking about Rigondeaux and Lomachenko. Both of them two-time Olympic champions with a host of amateur experience. Both have dominated the professional game and are quite rightly positioned in pound for pound rankings. And since Lomachenko turned professional and got big fights basically from it off, people have been touting this matchup, been talking about who would win, trying to push the fight to be made. And for years, for quite some time, a lot of people thought it would never happen. Despite both fighters being of a similar size, they both operate in weight classes, different weight classes. So there was talk that neither of them were prepared to jump the weight classes to fight at the weight class of the opponent, but we've got it. Rigondeaux's jumping up to Lomachenko's weight class, and we're finally going to see this fight happen. And I'm going to just talk about it for a brief moment. I'm not going to go into it in any big depth, and I'm going to give you my prediction of what I think is going to happen. Now, as I say, both fighters are exceptionally talented. They're exceptionally skilled in every possible attribute you could want in a pro fighter. So to pick who's going to edge out in terms of skills and class, it's not an easy one. So you have to think of just a couple of factors, and you've got to be thinking about the size. Is the size difference going to be a factor? Now, usually it is, because we see that it's a factor in a lot of fights. Lomachenko's going to be the bigger guy, 100%. But on fight night, you have to think, will he be that much bigger? And will that be a problem to Rigondeaux? I actually don't think it will. In the past, he has fought a few guys that are marginally bigger than him. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about an inch or two in everything. We're not talking about him fighting someone who's 4 inches taller or massive reach. We're talking about very minute differences. Yes, Lomachenko's been fighting 6-7 pounds heavier on a regular basis. For me, I don't think that the size differential is going to be a factor. The other factor we have is youth and experience and age. We know that Rigondeaux is considerably older. Does that mean he's more experienced? I don't think it does, because Lomachenko's amateur experience is somewhat exceptional. And obviously he's taken to the professional game like a duck to water, with the exception of a very tricky fight that he had right in the early stages. I mean, we could say that we could talk about whether or how far Rigondeaux is in terms of his age, and has he surpassed his prime? How much has he surpassed his prime? We don't really know, and the reason why I believe that is because, for me, I think a lot of the opponents Rigondeaux has faced have been fairly poor opposition. Yes, he has been so much classier than them, but there's a lack of superstars that he has had as opposition, and because of that, we just don't know how far he is past his prime, or whether he's in his prime now. Now, the third thing that I think warrants discussion is that if you're a fan of Lomachenko, or you're a fan of boxing, on a regular basis on social media, there are videos that crop up about Lomachenko showing the speed and the skill that he is that he's shown fights, and they compare it to the Matrix, the way that he kind of moves around his opponent with a combination as he's moving, and it's quite exceptional and quite amazing when you see it in slow motion. Now, I would agree it's amazing, and every time I see it, I think we're talking about an exceptionally gifted guy in terms of his physical attributes, his ring IQ, and how he can actually implement that. But what I would say is that he's a southpaw, and these have always been against people that aren't southpaw and people that are significantly slower than him. So this is a maneuver that he has pulled off many, many times, and it's because of those factors. Slower and against orthodox, okay? Would he be able? Is he going to be capable of pulling off that same move or those combinations against someone who's also southpaw? I mean, it's possible. I think it's going to be unlikely, and we'll have to see a kind of slightly different Lomachenko. And then when I was starting to think about this fight and who I think was going to win this fight, I started to kind of think about the whole Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. I know it's a completely different fight, but I started to think about the action, the high intensity, the offensive fighter against the defensive genius, the counterpuncher, the person that's thinking about what's happening. And on those kind of comments, for me, that's what I see as the story of this fight. We're going to see Lomachenko, the athletic, more offensive fighter. He's definitely the more offensive fighter, the flashy fighter, the high intensity fighter. Has all the skills and everything else, but they are what he brings to the table. Whereas with Lomachenko, more defensive, definitely more defensive, more considered, attacks from a counter position a lot. And we could see the more boring fighter edging out the win. And because of that, my prediction is that Rigondeaux is actually going to win this fight. Do I think it's going to win by stoppage? I think probably not. I think it could be one of those kind of masterclasses that we see. Every now and again we see a masterclass where we don't quite know what way it's going to go, and then suddenly we see it and we can just fully appreciate what happened. And I'm not saying that as from a perspective that I hate Lomachenko. I actually enjoy watching Lomachenko more. I'm a fan of Lomachenko, but for me, I see this matchup and I just think Rigondeaux is going to win it. Okay, so that's my prediction on this one. I just thought I would test the water on another weight class and just give you an opinion rather than the heavyweights that I've been doing more recently. If you've enjoyed this video, as I say, hit the thumbs up button. Give me some comments. I'd love to hear from you, and consider hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you soon.